Hi, welcome to the second day of our December Solstice Solidarity Summit 2021 from around the fire here in Madison, Wisconsin, as well as around our virtual fire all over the world. Really excited to introduce Gorazd Norcic. You can pronounce your name correctly for the people and share who you are and what this is all about. And I'm just going to turn it right over to you. Thank you.
Okay. So I'm Gorazd Norcic. I'm coming from Slovenia, which was part of Yugoslavia some time ago. I lived through the dismantling of Yugoslavia. I'm even a veteran of the liberation war in Slovenia. And I was asked to tell you a few things about this big experiment in Yugoslavia, which was called self-management, and which, to my surprise, has been reinvented in several companies in the Western world. So instead of starting immediately with Yugoslavia, I just wanted to ask, what do you know, if anything at all, about Yugoslavia? What do you remember? What do you know? What do you what are your, I don't know, feelings about Yugoslavia?
I can answer that just having grown. I was born in 1968, and I was a kid when the Sarajevo Olympics were held, and there was a lot of stuff on the news about how wonderful Sarajevo was that I remember it seeming really, yeah, I remember having an impression of the place being really culturally sort of magnificent. I mean, I really remember as a kid, like, sort of this shininess about the whole experience and my impression. And I remember when our country bombed Yugoslavia, and actually I shared with you, I made a song about it at the time called Eating Machine. I mean, it looked, yeah, it says Eating Machine, it could eat you too someday. I mean, for me, it was like an early, it was my first seeing of how it can happen to anyone, anytime, anywhere, of this kind of tear it apart.
Okay. Anyone else?
Okay, I was calling my grandfather Tito. That's how we call it. Actually, he asked for Papito, but it has been cut. So I was always kind of interested about Tito because it was the same name, but didn't know a lot before the war, actually. But just by chance, I never been in this part of the world before. And then I've worked, I've been called to work for Pfizer. This is very in the current day. And it was a Bosniak that was making the first interview to see if I'm okay. And I was so afraid because I didn't know which part it was and it was from France. That it was. I was thinking that there were some very dangerous people, and but then we became friends. And I realized that it was really not. Unfortunately, the people get really mad and kill each other, but that it was really done by the outside, and that it was a very, very interesting way of organizing the country. But it really came, by chance. And I had the opportunity to go in Serbia, and I find the people very, very nice. But I didn't want, because I'm not talking their language, I didn't want to talk about the past with them. So, and then since I know Gorazd, and he explained me a lot, and for me it's looks a bit like France was also organized after the Second War by De Gaulle, with like a third way between capitalism and communist, even if communist, Soviet was different than capitalist, but I think it was not so much because it was really power and control and very. But then I really appreciate this this third way, and I think we need this, and I'm very happy that Gorazd will explain more.
Okay, okay. Is anybody else, or should I start? Okay, so let me share the screen. I have a little presentation, just basic facts about Yugoslavia, but a little bit of history and. Okay, you see the. So basically, this is a joke. What you see now, but it is true. Yugoslavia was one country with 2 alphabets, 3 religions, 4 languages, 5 nations, 6 republics, and 22 million hardcore individuals. It was a mess, basically, to be honest. But it was a nice mess because this is Balkan, and with Balkan, you either have crazy wars, people killing each other, or you have big time fun. That's the way I understand Balkans. And the problem of Balkans were never people. There were always was problem idiots on in charge, and whatever they do with the countries there. So this is a little bit kitschy, just to have idea where Yugoslavia was, how big it was. So here is Yugoslavia, Russia, and Europe. So you approximately know where it is. A little closer. I'm from Slovenia. This is this northern part, and my what I'm going to explain, my experience is a little bit privileged one, because Slovenia was considered to be like a Switzerland of the Eastern countries. It is most common misconception is that Yugoslavia was Eastern Bloc, which is far from the truth. Actually, it was something in the middle. We have the third way, which I'll explain a little bit later. And from as far as I can remember, I was born in '64. We were able to travel without any restrictions wherever we wanted. And actually, Yugoslav passport at those times were one of the most wanted in the black market, because you could really travel everywhere. You can go to United States, you could go to Russia, no problem. Yugoslavia was established after the First World War as a kingdom of Serbs, Croats, and Slovenes, which didn't last very long. And then after the Second World War, the communist regime took over, simply because they were the most organized political party when the war started. And it's funny when you look how they were organized, and you can see that they were organized quite close to what later became self-management. They were organized quite in a this what I always quote complex adaptive systems, with small groups working locally and just interacting with each other. They of course had hierarchy a little bit, but this was more for the organizing than for controlling the stuff at the beginning. Then later only came this hierarchical structure that was controlling the stuff what was going on. So, and now to understand why the self-management was so important in the aftermath of the Second World War, Yugoslavia was 22 million people, but we were basically holding, I don't know how many divisions of Germans in Yugoslavia, because Balkan didn't want to budge, and there were partisans all over the place. So it was then the aftermath it was completely destroyed. It was 37 of total pre-war industrial capacity destroyed. More than half of the railway lines were destroyed. 3.5 million people were made homeless, or to say it in the modern speak, they were experiencing homelessness. Or a little less than 2 million people died, so it was quite a problem. In Europe, Yugoslavia, only France had bigger damage than Yugoslavia in Europe. But remember that France had like 50 million people and much more industry than Yugoslavia. And here is how actually Yugoslavia started after the World War. Yugoslavia was agrarian, most of it. It was maybe Slovenia was by far most industrialized part of Yugoslavia, with 21% people working in industry. And you can see the rest of Yugoslavia was everything was well below 10%. And this difference between Slovenia, Croatia, and the rest of Yugoslavia was lingering through all the history of Yugoslavia. It was on one side big problem. On the other side it was also a sign that it can be done, because things in Slovenia were working quite well. So, but before we start with that, let's go with some fun facts about Tito. He was a playboy, and Yugoslavia, when Yugoslavia decided to make a war movie, the Hollywood stars come in and played. So for example, Richard Burton played Tito in 2 movies, I think. And they visit Tito in his residency. And here is a fun fact. What Burton wrote in his diaries. He said, "They live in remarkable luxury, unmatched by anything else I've seen. And I can well believe Princess Margaret, who says that whole business makes Buckhouse, which is Buckingham Palace, look like pretty middle class." So Tito was living really, really well. What you see here is his private archipelago in the Croatian border. And this house here was his villa in this Brioni. It was actually, here you can see it, if you can see my pointer. One thing that you have to know is maybe some of you heard about that, or you know about non-alignment movement. It was extremely important politically, because it was like a antidote to this West and Eastern bloc, and it was 120 developing worlds that were in it. Basically, more than half of the world's population were part of this non-alignment movement, and Yugoslavia was the motor of it. And also, fun fact: when Tito died, this was the largest state funeral in history, including 4 kings, 31 presidents, 6 princes, blah, 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 blah. So basically 128 countries were present at the funeral. And after that funeral, Yugoslavia basically left so the path and straight away. So look, let's go now back to this self-management stuff. If you have any questions, then just interrupt me and ask. Just to explain a difference between Yugoslavia and Slovenia, to see how we live. So I have a little bit different view to Yugoslavia that, for example, somebody who was living in Kosovo or in Macedonia. this is a relative difference, but maybe the best way is this time lag between Yugoslavia and Slovenia that was growing from the beginning. So actually, at the end of Yugoslavia was 20 years of development behind Slovenia. That was a difference. And actually, what was we will see that later. One of the things that helped Slovenia, actually, in my personal view, of course, is that this self-management was idea of Slovene guy, and he adopted it, of course, to Slovene culture, and that's why it worked. And the further away you went from Slovenia, the further south you went from Slovenia, self-management wasn't working that well because it was not attuned to the culture of the wherever it was. So here are official reasons for demise of Yugoslavia. They say it is because of huge debt to foreign banks, national tensions, unresolved internal problems, blah 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 blah. But just to give you perspective, for example, debt of Yugoslavia, the huge debt of Yugoslavia, 23 million people in 1989 were owing $20 billion to the world. Debt of Slovenia today, 2 million people, 50 billion euro we owe to the world, and we are considered quite successful anyway. So Yugoslavia definitely didn't go bust because of the debt. Here is a good article about what happened in Yugoslavia. I will put it later on in a chat if you want to read it. How the Yugoslavia was basically dismantled, and I'm not going to into this. And my favorite thing is why Yugoslavia was dismantled, because the Yugoslavia was probably the only team that can beat United States dream team in basketball. So that's if you think I'm joking, in 2017 in Eurobasket championship, so basically all European states, the finale was between Slovenia and Serbia, and Croatians was they were 10th, I think. Okay, so self-management started in 1950, and from the devastation you've seen that I mentioned, that I show you with numbers, and the destruction that what the Yugoslavian people had the doorsteps in after the war. By 1980, Yugoslavia had on average attained the standard of living of approximately 2/3 of that of Italy. That was the going from basically zero to 2/3 of Italy. And let's see how this happened. Now, in contrary to what they had in socialist bloc in Russia and in Poland and the rest, we had a combination. They have planned economy. What we had was combination. So basically, what they did, they have 5 years plans, and they planned the investments and into what they will invest, what they will support, and blah blah blah. But they let through the self-management, they let the local people decide what to do, how to do it, and which way to go. Of course, everything was controlled by Communist Party. It was not that was completely out of out of control and free to do whatever you wanted. But it was anyway, it was a big influence what is going on in the local communities. So this really helps. So between 52 and 60, Yugoslavia recorded the highest growth rate of any country in the world in this period, and in the 63 in the second phase, 63-74, with the market socialism, where they went even more into the reducing the planning part and pushing it towards the market regulation. It still ranked quite high in the with the growth. And here actually the problems starts, because it became apparent to the Communist Party that the successful republics like Slovenia and Croatia and successful companies are taking over the governance, because they were so powerful because of the money, of course. And what they did is they decided to sack the dissident successful leaders and replace the directors of the companies. And this was basically the start of the end, because of course, when you replace a successful director with somebody who doesn't know what to do, the company is quite in a problematic waters. So let's see, 1950s, the first legal framework was set, which is called Act on the Workers' Management. And what they did is they organized the companies based on what they did. They create a basic organization, not really around this Dunbar number 150, because it was not known at that time, but it was close to that. So these basic organizations of associated labor, as they were called, this was like a majority of them were really around 200 people, 100, 200, 300 maybe. If these basic organizations became bigger, they split them to two, and then they combine this several basic organizations into a little bit bigger organization. So it was kind of a first step toward, organizing the way the people work in this not that much hierarchical way. And what was the basic tenet of the whole thing was that there was no in this associate basic organizations, the ownership was not actually defined properly. It was called social property, but it was not known exactly for 20 years what constitutes the social property. It was left either intentionally or nobody really cared, I have no idea, but it was left unaddressed. So what happened is that people organized that and decided what to do with that by themselves. It makes perfect sense in Slovenia because we work a little bit different. It doesn't make any sense in Kosovo, for example. So it was really a strange development of the same principle in different cultures. So everything was still under control of Communist Party, no question, but it was not that rigid. at the beginning. It became rigid later, and this was when the demise started. And in 1974, the self-management became part of the constitution of Yugoslavia. And when this constitution was legalized, it was the longest constitution of any country in the world, because it has more than 450 articles. And here it was the first time that this social property was defined, what it means and how it works, and what you can do with it. Yet still there were some inconsistencies in the legal framework, which is that you have you are, as a worker, you are kind of owner of the factory, but you cannot basically decide to sell it, for example. So this basic tenets of ownership, like right of possession, right to keep revenues, right of disposal, they were all kept ambiguous. And actually, under provisions of the law, the user of social ownership at the same time enjoys and lacks the rights. So it was really confusing. But what meant this in practice is that profits of the enterprises were directed either in the further expansion and growth of the company, or sometimes to subsidize the non-profitable small companies in the rural areas, and which this particular helped Slovenia tremendously when we left the Yugoslavia, because the blow of losing 70% of the market, which was much less severe. And the other side effect, which Croatians liked a lot, is that enterprises massively started to erect workers' retreats in the touristic areas, in the seaside and the mountains, and so that workers can go and enjoy the holidays in the company's premises for really cheap prices. And these workers' homes, that they were called, became a backbone of Croatian touristic industry later on. Another feature of this economic system were associated banks, where all the banks in Yugoslavia were owned by the companies. And the interesting feature was that these banks did provide accounts for citizens, but not for the legal entities, because all the legal entities were having their accounts in a something that we called at that time service of social bookkeeping, which proved to be extremely efficient thing. And of course, it gave Communist Party also unprecedented access to the pulse of economy. So this was one of the best features that I know of, how to approach the commons way of managing a lot of things that go around with a lot of companies. Basically, what you do, you put all the accounts in a transparent way and show everything. So this is the basics of self-management. So now we can go on a more my views on it, but maybe if somebody wants to ask something, or if I wasn't clear enough, some questions.
I have one. Yes. About this, how enterprise were exchanging So it was like a kind of mutual credit. So money were moving from this public bookkeeping. How it was working?
What do you
Because
mean?
they had to
Well,
pay each other. If they,
yes.
sometimes they were paying.
Well, actually, it worked. It was you can look at this as in the same way as a bank today. You go in a bank and
Okay.
and wire the money. It was working in the same way. It is just that that it was not a bank. It was the state entity that was taking care of bookkeeping.
Okay.
And banks were still giving out credit, but instead of crediting the account of the company which was in the bank, they credited the account of the company which was in this social service.
Okay.
That was the difference.
And this social service were able to pay the employee in their bank account.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, yes.
I
You
understand.
pay when you are paying the employee the stuff. You just wire the money from this social to the bank. It was just the bookkeeping. It was nothing nothing to do with creating the money or stuff. This was still the bank's business. It was just the bookkeeping, and one of the things that we at that time nobody realized how good that was. Is that we had this clearing going on, where you just go and say, okay, here are my open accounts that I have to pay, my open invoices, and then the system was created that they went check all the open invoices of all the companies, and they basically canceled each other's out. So you can have I remember I was once checking what was happening, and basically I had one invoice open, and it went through 25 companies to close everything down. So they were compensating each other, and this what this creates is you don't need money. You need 30% less money.
Yes, because yes, my second question is how the money were created
in banks.
In banks by fiat.
Yeah, it was fiat. It was also some other stuff which I don't know exactly. I'm not so sure, but if I understand correctly, it is fiat currency. It was not backed by
from the Communist Party, not from taking credits from some.
Well, it was banks did create a money, and it was under control of communist party, no question. And it was many times that you need, as a director of a company, that you needed to have good connections with the party to get credit. So it happens many times that the bank says no, and then the telephone rings, and then the bank says yes. So that was
they were creating units because some real wealth will be created. In a way.
The bank didn't understand what.
Some units were created to give to an enterprise to create real wealth.
Yeah, you can say that. Yes,
it was based on promise of future wealth produced. A bit.
I think this is how it was happening. I'm not exactly sure what was the how the banks actually, what was the percentage of the creation of the credits directly out of nothing, and what was backed up by gold or something like that. I have no idea. I didn't check that. But what was different between what we have now and what we had at that time is that the social component of giving the credit was much on a higher level. So they were taking they were giving the money to the, For example, if there was there was a factory in a rural area, maybe employing 50, 60 people, and this was not profitable, it was still kept running by the credits because of the surrounding of the social impact that these jobs have on the area, and it was actually cheaper to give them the money to run the factory and give the people job than to actually dismantle the whole factory and just give the social security funds to them.
I understand.
It was kind of a different thing, but then again, it worked really different in Slovenia or in the south, because when they sometimes decide, I remember they put tremendous amount of money into one company in it was actually in Croatia on the border with Bosnia, and that company was bust in 5 years. I mean, it was like millions and millions of dollars that were gone in a matter of years. Everything was destroyed. I mean, it was not profitable at all. So it was really different. But also Slovenia has a lot of crazy things. Like we had this electricity plant that runs on coal, which we get from Indonesia. I mean,
okay.
So, it as any system. This was also, it has its own stupid things. It was
Of course. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? Some questions? Maybe one thing that for me was strange. I was, of course, when this change in Yugoslavia was happening, I was, of course, all for let's go capitalist way, let's bring free market economy in and all this stuff. And then I remember coming this way, we had this war in 91, and I left directly from trenches to study MBA, and I came in United States, and for me when I came to United States, it was like traveling backward in time. It is I was expecting, you know, I will see flashy homes, flashy cars, flashy everything. And I come to United States, I see the suburbs that were not so flashy. I saw the cars that were not so good. Of course, you see these long cars and say, wow. And then I come to McDonald's, and I see the employee of the month. A picture of a guy or a girl, employee of the month. And I said, "My shit, we had this in the 50s, and we didn't do it anymore because it was not successful." So it was really strange. It felt like, you know, like a glove that is turned inside out. It was familiar in a way, but in a strange way also different. So it was really funny. And one thing that I remember, because this MBA, we had a start in Italy. We were in Italy for 5 months at the beginning, and for the New Year's no, it was Christmas. For Christmas, I organized an excursion of all my schoolmates. We were around 35, half of them Americans, other from different European countries, to Ljubljana to see Ljubljana, to see the socialism. And I remember it was total panic, and they were asking American embassy if it is safe to go to Ljubljana and if it is good to be there. And I will never forget the shock in people, because it was also not many Europeans were in Yugoslavia when they actually come to Ljubljana. And when they saw, I was listening to the comments of people. We were in a bus driving in Ljubljana to the center, and it was Christmas time. It was everything. It was lights and really nice put together. We have the big brewery in the center of town, which just at that time erected a new facade with the lights and I don't know, the different the colors were changing all the time. It was blue and red and green, and everything was quite psychedelic. And they were like looking out and say, shit, we don't have this at home. And then they go, oh, look, that is BMW. Oh my God, that is a Mercedes driving. So basically we had everything. It's just that that it was not in the same way that it was on in the West. For example, it was way cheaper to own a house. So basically, if you were a worker, you could still get to the house. And the way how they built the house in those times, it was, I still remember. It was, for example, when I was living during the summer in my grandparents' house in a village, when two guys married, the whole village came together and they built them the house. I mean, they paid, of course, for the material, but they may paid for the guy who was taking care of everything because he knew how to build. But all the neighbors come in, everybody came and helped, and they had big party every day at the end of the working day. So basically, the cost of the house were calculating in the cost of the material and the cost of the booze. So this is how and this is forbidden by the law. This is forbidden. And it's if the neighbor helps the neighbor, and if he by a chance, for example, he's a plumber neighbor, and if he goes to the neighbor to repair the plumbing, and he doesn't give him the invoice, which of course he won't because it's a neighbor, this is a major criminal act. So it's really strange things happening in Slovenia right now. So, okay. Now, any questions?
Have you worked in former Yugoslavia, or you were only student?
No, basically, no, I didn't work. I was
okay.
I was a student, and I worked in all my life. I worked only 2 years in a company that I didn't own. I was always on my own.
Okay, no, just to understand if you have experienced this self-managed
I did.
enterprise.
That's why I'm answering this.
Okay.
Because it was this was in 93. 92 I came back from United States. In 93 I started. Yes, it was 93 to 95 that I was employed because I was asked by a friend of mine to come and help as a turnaround management to resurrect one of the companies, and they were producing mobile telephones. And it was fun, and I didn't want to be director because I said I don't want to be, so somebody else was. I was just I don't know, helping them. And it was in that time, it was the time of privatization, and I was selected as the way how the self-management worked was that workers elected a council of 5, 6, 7, it depends on the size of the company, of 5, 6, 7 employees. And they were there, actually, this was the governing body of the company. And then out of this, and then there was a director, which was not part of this council, and the other bosses and all the other functions. And this, I was the president of this. I was selected as a president of this governing body to actually help privatize the company. It was 6 companies put together as a group. So that was my experience with the self-management. But this was at the end. This was basically the end of self-management. So I was probably the only president of this board with MBA. And that was my only experience with the self-management as it is. What I know about self-management is what I listened to my father, because my father was a professor of economics. And just the other day I was looking, and this is a book which is dealing with the problems of this social ownership, and it is just basically 1 2-day seminar. This is what they were discussing. It was a lot of problems, and I was just reading my father's paper in this book. And it was funny because they were all searching for the same things that we are now searching: how to actually create a system which would allow for optimizing the production, and at the same time not allowing for extraction. That was the main goal of self-management and the socialism in Yugoslavia: how to manage the things in a way that you diminish the power of extraction, and then the wealth that comes with it, and the influence that the rich people, the extremely rich people, have on the society. This was the struggle that it was going on all the time. And I was just explaining to my mother that he had the same problem that we have. And the problem why they didn't find the solution was that they were focused on economy. There is no solution in economy. You have to get different things in if you want to find the solution. You have to understand biology. You have to understand other things. So hopefully we have some answers with Sibyl, with our reciprocity loop and all this stuff that we are doing. Okay.
Hi, I'm Jeannie. I wasn't able to be here at the beginning of your presentation, and I'm glad it's going to be taped, and I will tune in. Thank you so much for being here and sharing, giving us an overview and update. One of my questions now, and I'm sorry if you might have shared it earlier, is how are people reacting or responding, or right now? You gave the example of neighbors sharing skills and time, and how now there are laws in place to find people, or to have, if they're not charging people, that how are individuals, are they just accepting this? Do they feel there's anything they can do to respond or support change back in another direction?
Well, the sad realization is that the way how they do it it's really slow. They first get the law, And when people started to protest, they said, no, it's not meant that way, it's not blah blah blah. And then everybody forgets about this law because there is something new in the news, a new problem, and they forget about the law. And then 5 or 6 years later, when the neighbor, and this really happened, they were covering the roof, and neighbor helped because he was officially having a company for roof, but he was doing alone. He was working there to help the neighbor, and the police came with this like a SWAT team, bump in, and they charged him for, I don't know, 5,000 euros or something like that because he was doing that.
Wow.
So this is what, and now people are actually afraid of helping each other, which is totally crazy.
Yeah.
So this change was really slow, really slow. It's like, it's like cooking a frog, you
Ah,
don't realize. You
yeah.
don't realize.
Yeah. Thank you.
And also, what really changed for me, I mean, this is how I feel it. Made what I'm telling you, I'm sure that you can get many people who will tell you the opposite, that it was all this bullshit and stuff like that. But for me, the way how people treated each other in a socialist environment, and the way how we treat each other now, was way different. Way different. It was not all roses and nice stuff, but it was much better. And I remember when this Slovene war, which was luckily not far from being as severe as in Bosnia, but still there are still some dead people and some bullets were flying around. I remember the feeling of unitedness of Slovenes. There was no question what you are, where you are. That was together, and that same thing was felt in this unitedness among common people, was felt all over Yugoslavia. Nobody cared if you are Macedonian or among the common people. Of course, some idiots always have problems. And for example, Sarajevo, which was shelled and bombed, and they destroyed the library of Sarajevo by shelling, was actually the cultural capital of Yugoslavia. Because in Sarajevo you have Orthodox, you have Muslims, you have Christians, you have atheists. Everything was mixed. And in Yugoslavia, before this shit happened, nobody cared who they were marrying each other. They were all mixed. And now they are all separated.
Wow.
It's really a problem. But before that, it was, and to see how this differences basically enrich you is just look what was happening in Sarajevo during the socialist Yugoslavia. From Sarajevo, the biggest rock band came. They have one of the best symphonic orchestra. Near Sarajevo, the only Nobel Prize winner for literature was from. The painters from Sarajevo are basically worldwide known. So it was really culturally exploding with all this. And the funny thing was that before Yugoslavia was exploding, there was a group of young people who created kind of a Yugoslavian version of Monty Python.
Yeah.
And it was so accurate in predicting what will happen. And it was at the same time, it was so hilariously funny that now that I look back, I don't know, should I cry or should I laugh? Because I remember one episode when they go, two of them want to buy something on the marketplace in Sarajevo, and they suddenly go from the customs to the customs. Because they cut all the Sarajevo to get to the and all the neighbors wanted to have, okay, this is my territory, now you have to pay because you are going through, and this is what happens. It's totally nuts. And it is such a beautiful town. And yeah, it was completely destroyed. Now it's built back, but okay.
Yeah. No, thank you for sharing that. Ooh.
So what influenced the desire for change and to embrace market economies, and and what you were saying, there wasn't division that created that division so quickly?
What created?
Yeah, from something that seemed to work, where was the desire for?
Well, maybe look, it was not working all over the place. If you it was working in Slovenia, definitely, no question. In Slovenia, with 2 million people out of 22, we had 60% of exports of Yugoslavia. So this is really different. And from what I was explaining was my experience in Slovenia. So this is while in the Serbia was already different, but then also the Serbia was really also segregated, because Belgrade, that was booming. It was even better than Ljubljana. But Kosovo, for example, that was like in the Middle Ages, compared to Belgrade or Slovenia. What happened, in my view, is that all this that I explained before with this Tito, this non-aligned countries, because Yugoslavia profited tremendously from this non-aligned movement, because we were exporting stuff all over the place. We were building stuff. We were, if I remember correctly, we were also involved in building the Aswan dam in Egypt. So we built half of the stuff for Iraq with Saddam Hussein, and we were all over the world with our civil engineering and stuff. So it was for Yugoslavia, this was really good. And the problem was that we started to export the know-how of how to self-manage, and that has to be stopped, in my opinion. That was the problem. And the way how to stop is to introduce the tensions, which in Balkans is not very difficult. And if you how you do it, let me give you the link to this article. It's a Canadian economists who went through the release documents of CIA and White House and all the stuff. Chostudowski is his name. So you can see how they did it. The way how the war in Bosnia started. It's from what I know, and I've been involved in the beginning of this a little bit more, because I had my uncle was really deeply involved in he's dead now, in the weapons smuggling for Croatia, and from what I heard from him and from his friends when I was in Zagreb discussing this war, what happened is that Serbs took out from the prison criminals, and they send them to kill the Serbs village, one village, and then they retaliated, and then the war started. It was this was classical red flag or the operation that started. But then again, this was said to me by Croats, so maybe it was the other way around. I have no idea. Basically, the problem of Yugoslavia was never people; it was always the politicians.
And Gorazd, was it how it became to change the way enterprise were managed, because it was not included in the war, this change of paradigm society?
Oh, it was the idea.
No, I know it was embedded, but not concretely. The war was not to kill this Sovietic.
The war was exactly to kill this. That was the idea. I mean,
yes, the hidden intention, but not the
well,
official.
You see, it's simply we had in Yugoslavia before the whole thing went ballistic. We had big inflation. And while you could really get rich with that, it's mostly not really good for economy, and it was of course devastating for some jobs. So people were not really satisfied with how the things were running. So they were so much more easy to adopt the Western way of private entrepreneurship, and everything will be fine. You will all have Levi's and
yes, and with the illusions that come with
the usual shit now.
Yes, and now people want to make co-op. They can.
Yes,
it's possible.
Yes, but it is possible. Yes, it is legal. It is no problem. But my experience when I was creating the co-op a few years ago.
Yes, because you are running a co-op actually.
Yeah,
with your
I even wanted to create still in Yugoslavia. I wanted to create a student co-op. But when I wanted to create a co-op now a few years ago, actually it was a little bit of a problem, because they started to ask me to do things that were not required by law. Give me that. I need contracts with the. For example, they wanted me to have a contract with another company that will show that we can really start business, which is not required by law, by the way. And I said to this lady there, I said, look, I can't have a contract because I don't have a legal entity yet. How can I have a contract? And then okay, I said, okay, no problem. I will do it. I solved the problem. So I said on the contract, the future, blah blah blah, and we will do that. And it was signed. So basically, I was the contract bearer, and we wrote that once the company will be established, I mean the cooperative will be established, we will transfer the contract. So this was then, and then she wanted something else, and then at the end, I went there to this lady, and I yelled at her. I was totally pissed off, and I said, if she doesn't give me the co-op now, I will go to higher places. And I mentioned some guys, and I said they're my friends, and so I think it's time to move on. And then I got the stuff. So. But if I would do the normal limited company, it would be no problem. So cooperatives are legally possible, but it is not desirable.
Mm-hmm.
And for example, we had the banks in Yugoslavia, these associate banks. They're basically running like a cooperatives, and you had also cooperative banks in Slovenia and in Yugoslavia. And when the new regime came in, the first thing that the new bank governor of the Slovene National Bank did was ban all the cooperative banks, and now by the law the banks could be only this società per azioni, so basically this shareholding corporations.
So now there is not anymore, or very few co-op or any self-management spirit.
Well, in the last year, if I look, if I remember correctly, maybe not now this year, but the previous year, it was more than 350 new co-ops created. So people are going in this way. And it's I read one diploma work of one economist. She went to look last, I don't know how many years of co-ops creation in Slovenia and also in Europe, and she discovered that when the times are bad for economy, the number of co-ops created grows. And when times are good, co-ops creation diminish.
Mm-hmm.
That was interesting for me, because it reminds me on a way how this monocellular organism called amoeba works. You know amoeba?
Tell me.
When there is enough food, they all swim by themselves. Each monocell, one cell for itself, and they swim in this. And when the food is scarce, they clump together, and you have I don't know, 15,000 amoebas in one clump that you can see with naked eye. And they move, and nobody knows how they are able to actually coordinate the movements among 15,000 amoebas so that they go towards the food. Now, just imagine the complexity. Imagine 100 people. You put them into the square, and you tape them out so they cannot communicate. You tie them together and tell them to go to pizza, to eat pizza,
Yes.
to
This
eat something,
is,
not even pizza, to eat something. And you have one pizzeria, one something, and then how they will do it. That's
but
what
I think they make a common consciousness, like the fish bowl. It's one type of the collective intelligence.
They are
cool,
actually they are communicating. They discovered that.
They are.
Yes, and they are now looking for it, because this how they do it. That's really something that we could use.
But I think we have these capabilities in human, but we are
but
not more used. But this united consciousness can happen. I have experienced some, rarely, but when a group of people is attuned and there is kind of some magic that happens, that we are totally synchronized without any word and with any boss or whatever.
We are in a flow.
Exactly.
Ardell, you want to say something? I see you have the hands up.
Yeah, thanks. I had a couple of questions. One is, what was the official narrative for the rationale for forbidding people from helping each other without billing for services? And I'm also curious to hear more about the contrast of how the economy is now.
The official narrative was that there is too much what they call black market.
Oh.
And that people are not paying taxes, and that people are not participating equally in the thing, which is of course true. I mean, it's no question about it. Who wants to pay taxes if they're squandered? And this was official narrative, and they say that this law will change that. But what really they want to dissolve the community, dissolve this camaraderie among the neighbors. That was the hidden agenda. Now, regarding the business, actually, what happened from my experience, my business life started in in socialism. What I did, I was in the third year of secondary school, so I was 18 maybe, and what I did was made a contract, but not written, just we agreed on something and it worked, and I was pretty well off for several years with doing that. And the big difference between, but this is only my experience, is that it was more honorable. It was not that,
competitive,
and it was actually more cooperative. Period. That's here now is I will fuck you if I can. Period. I will screw you, and if I can.
So you think it's a much more aggressive climate?
Definitely. But then again, this is my experience. I know it's.
But now your money is creating by debts.
Yeah,
as everywhere. So my game shows that it's make people stupid and selfish and that want to. So it's exactly what's happening.
If you look at the numbers, Yugoslavia as a whole together, 22 million people owed $20 billion. Now Slovenia with 2 million people owes 50 billion euros. I mean,
yes, and this compound interest and it's making people very stupid and selfish. Just to let you know that in Sweden, swapping is forbidden too. I was so surprised.
Really?
Well, in the States, my understanding is in the States, it's not forbidden. It's just you're supposed to. It's not seen as, so few people barter that there's just no interest in going after people who didn't pay their taxes for the bartered exchange, which is they're supposed.
Look, this is not a bartered exchange.
Okay.
This is clearing the invoices with just so. For example, I owe Stephanie something. Stephanie owes Sibyl something. Sibyl owes to me something, and we just put things together. And in the end, everything goes. Then no money was involved. That's what I'm talking about.
No, this was a clearing among enterprise, but we are talking about the neighbors that come to help you for the roof.
It's the same.
It's not swapping; it was just a gift.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mentioned the bartering because Sybil had mentioned that swapping was forbidden, and I realize it's different, but kind of related. But I could see how if it became common, it would likely be shut down. I mean, there's been all this effort to regulate Bitcoin now that it's becoming more popular.
In France,
can I speak to it?
Exchange?
Just Stephanie.
Sorry, Stephanie, go.
I just wanted to also speak to it briefly. Like, if you've read the book Debt, the First 5,000 Years, I feel like that's really helpful framing. But just the introduction of currency and this idea of debt as being so binding and being above all these other concerns is fairly recent and like very manipulated, and the laws are all in place to restrict barter and other forms of exchange here, and they get put in terms of like labor issues, which of course we need to be concerned about labor issues, but it kind of like goes a backwards direction. But I don't know exactly what I want to say, but there's something here for me about what you're saying about the impact on our behavior and how we treat each other, and about how Sarajevo was was a very pluralistic cultural center, and that's the place they chose to bomb, just like Hiroshima and Nagasaki were like smaller cultural centers, very pluralistic, and that's where our country chose to test our nuclear weapons. And that's a really common theme as well, and I feel that I know the answer comes from how we treat each other, and that we need to get centered there, that we need to get centered there and find the power there and keep the power there. And it is about communicating and keeping the lines of communication open. And I've been really inspired by whoever was there yesterday when Alan Haber was talking about the peace tables. I would like to start building peace tables in a variety of communities to, have that be a seat of where we actually really build the peace that lasts, and stop putting up with this high level, well, I consider it low level, but high level in terms of like trying to operate way above or outside of our realm, this kind of manipulation of our own behavior. That's all.
Seville, you wanted to say something? Okay, anyone else? Question?
What do you think is a way, do you feel that there's a way back to having more of a community camaraderie? Are there groups that are talking about that being a missing element that is needed? Because in the US, for example, there is a talk about, not in the mainstream, but about how trust is really it's somewhat the mainstream. It was in like one of Covey's books, and that's in management, business management does kind of dabble in that kind of, I heard it from there. But that trust is the lubricant of the economy, and that the legal trappings are really not in the end a substitute for that.
Well, for me, for example, it was one of the first question in the legal when you had the legal course in MBA, and it was of course American professor, and he was also talking about trust, and that American business is based on trust, and all that stuff. And I asked him, okay, if it is based on trust, why do you have the longest contracts in the world? And it is that's precisely what's going wrong now, because the people are so bound to the letter of law. I'm when I hear this rule of law will save us, it's just for me it's just crazy. And yes, people are talking about going back to this camaraderie. It is happening. The problem I see is that majority of people want to do it in a way, okay, we will go away, we will escape from the towns, we will go to the rural side and we will do it there. The problem is that they might do it, yes, and then they even might succeed, yes, but the system will come after them. It won't. If you want to change, you have to change everything, not just. Don't run away. Change it there in your neighborhood. This is how it should be done. This, I think, that's otherwise won't work. You have to replace the system, period, or all the system will replace you.
Victory has.
Hello?
Yeah, hello.
Okay, this is in response to what the young lady asked. Once upon a time in the United States, it was a republic, not what the Republicans are. So it was we the people, for the people, by the people. And we are the substance of what's going on now and the substance of the healing that could happen if we go back to that righteousness and sovereignty. Do you agree? Instead of constantly taking on United States divide methods.
Yeah, I agree completely. Before the previous session, it was said that somebody said that you feed if you fight something against, you feed that same thing you fight against, and I agree. And the thing is that what we need to do is to find the way that you actually. Maybe there is a way that we could use the system against itself. It's like this Aikido philosophy of this Japanese martial art, that you use the power of opponent against himself. So don't fight against, but move forward toward something. Work. And also, I hate to use word fight for. I don't want to fight for. I want to do it. I want to live that.
To work toward it.
Yeah.
So that one way that is happening in the intentional communities movement is that some of the communities, instead of setting up, if they're in an industry that is not friendly to cooperatives, or that doesn't have any understanding of it, they can't get funding because it's just not done, it's just not recognized as legitimate or workable. Some of them are creating, even in real estate, a corporation. They're creating a corporation, but then the members buy the shares and they don't go public with it in the traditional sense. And so that's a way of using that sort of capitalist competitive structure, but using it for cooperative ends.
You have one you can do it that way, no problem, but you have one thing that you have to be really careful. Legally speaking, from what I understand, the cooperative is the only legal entity where people are above the capital. Because it doesn't matter if you have 1 million in and the other has 10,000 in, one man, one vote. So if in the normal corporation with the shares, one that has 1 million shares and one that has 10,000 shares, this one is not important. So that's the big difference. Of course, you can guard against that, but you have to keep that in mind if you are incorporated in this corporation way. If you are in a cooperative, then this is one less worry. You have another, but it's not in this direction.
What I see as a direction, and it's what we are trying to do with the ecosystem, because for instance in France, all the public service that were working very well are being totally broken and privatized, and the European Union finance only private companies. But then I find a way, and I make some example for my territory around me, that if we make some an ecosystem of multi-stakeholder co-op, one for energy, one for food, one for transportation, one for school, one for garbage, one for computing. Then we link all together. So we recreate service for the commons, but we will not call it public service because we are not allowed. We can catch money from European Union because we are private. But then it's for the interest of the whole population and people, enterprise or city hall or public entity can enter in the co-op. So this is how I see.
Plan.
Because I agree. If we, I'm already involved in some co-op, but only one piece, and then we are really, for instance, I'm running energy production co-op, and I've been asked, it's mandatory to publish my account, but I have to pay for it. So I've just been racket by this stupid system because they want to be transparent, but we are already showing the book. So it's difficult to be alone, only doing one activity within the whole scarce and greedy system. And because it's so difficult to find a space of cooperation and trust within this debt system that put everyone, it's really, I create a game since 2012 that is run everywhere. And when we put the money, the debts money controlled by a bank, people get totally stupid, selfish, freeze, steal, of all the bad behavior of, and then we change the money, and then cooperation comes back. But the difficulty is to change your behavior while we are still in this really extractive architecture.
Yeah, it is forcing you back. It is a natural thing of any system to do. You know, to guard itself against the change, and it will. You have all these fallback procedures that is forcing you to go away from cooperation back to competition.
And everyone has to steal his neighbors to pay back his credit because it's how it's done, or nation or enterprise or people. So this competition to pay back the interest make all of us crazy.
And if you fail to do that, then you are a loser and you are idiot and you are not.
Yes, but
not
then you're helping the other to do it.
Yeah.
You can sacrifice yourself to let the other pay his interest.
I had this to add to what I said. Remember, we're corporal beings. In the USA, after Lincoln refinance, new corporal being incorporated by the United States of America Corporation until we're corpus. We have to take that back. There's folks out there paying zero, no debt, because of that contract called a birth certificate. It's actually a legal page long here in the U.S. I don't know how it works there, but it sounds like they are adopting so much, supposedly democracy, but it's really more about anarchy.
Basically, I wrote somewhere that you get your tax number before you get your name. Okay. Anyone else?
Just to precise something, I think you told me that the Yugoslavian model were inspired by the very antique Slovenian model. That before Yugoslavia, Slovenia was already organized in not so much hierarchical.
Yeah, Slovenes were never really keen on having kings and nobility, and we had a very strange this Middle Ages with feudalism, It was I was told by one historian that it was unique in Europe because when the landlord came and divided the land to the peasants to take care, it was only in Slovenia that peasants got all the same amount of the land in a way that it was fair, so that not that one got a swamp, the other got really good land, and something in between. The way how it was done in Slovenia was that it was shared. You get a little bit of swamp, you get a little bit of good land, you get a little something in between, and this is how it worked. And they realized that because if this was not done so, there was a revolt, and it was really dangerous for a landlord to have a revolt of angry peasants. So, and this was how everything started. And yes, we had supposedly we had our systems of that we had election for some of our nobility kind of, but I'm not sure if this is true or it is just a legend. But anyway, we have this crazy notion of that we have to be equal, and which is sometimes not really not always good. Which is not always good, because if you in Slovenia, if you are too good or if you are a little bit strange, then you might be cast out of the society. That's a problem. Okay.
Are we ready to be winding toward
End of the road?
well, hopefully not. For us, we need to make a transition indoors before the next session on solidarity economy principles. But I thought this was like fascinating food for thought. I'm gonna share that music video with you too later so you can see it.
Okay.
And yeah, I feel like there's so many of the kernels of what we know we need to do. As a
There is
matter of
yeah, I agree. Maybe as a final thought, definitely it was not everything correct what was happening in Yugoslavia with the self-management and all this stuff that was going on. But in my opinion, it was a step in the right direction, and we need to find what was working and what was not working, why it was not working, why it was working, and then adapt that to different cultures, to different circumstances. This is the major flaw of the system in Yugoslavia, was they wanted to push the same thing to all these different nations and different cultures. That's why it didn't work better. But even with that, it works quite well for a common people. So that's and I think this is a lesson that needs to be remembered.
In addition to all these traditional societies and a whole variety of cultures and communities that have lasted for a really long time and have lived in harmonious situations that often just got imposed. I keep talking about the David Graeber and some of that history that was like history and present that is just very deliberately silenced and made invisible. And so much of just the fact that we have what we need and abundance is around us, we just can't see it.
Yeah, I agree. Adele, you want to say something?
Yeah. So there's a podcast that I think would be really open to, would really maybe love to have some some of this same kind of commentary. It's called Leader Morphosis, and it's run by a member of a self-managing team called Inspiral that's out of New Zealand.
Yeah.
They've done some really great work, and I think they would appreciate, you know, I would, if I knew them personally, I would ask them to invite you, but you might reach out to them if you feel like this.
Well,
I think this
I
message
will
would
check
be
it.
a good
I will check it out. For me, the way I see it, I think it's better for everybody if we are a little bit silent about what we are doing and first do it and test it, and once we know that it is working, then we explode.
You know, that's a really good perspective, because you can't, I mean, but just to even hear about some of the positives, I think, especially because people will say in some circles, there's just this narrative that, you know, oh, we tried communism, and they just kind of lump everything into, you know, that one bucket of communism. We tried it, it didn't work. So communalism, you know, anybody that tries to do anything cooperative, they'll dump it in the bucket of communism and say, we tried that, it didn't work. Look at these countries that didn't work. But for someone to come up and say, you know, actually,
it worked.
one size fits all is one of the important principles to look at, and it did work in select nations. And just like with the charter school movement, the success of it has been because there are some schools, like in inner cities, that are being run almost like with a military kind of strictness, which is what some fatherless youth seem to need and thrive with. While there are other charter schools where it's, you know, the majority of them are much more self-guided learning, and they fit the, you know, they just fit the needs of where they are. And I think that's been the success, a huge success of that movement. And why not allow that local needs, you know, that same perspective needs to be brought out, that communism did not fail. It was only the totalitarian central management version of it that was too top down to respond to local needs. That's what failed.
No, none came to communism. It was socialism, and
Yeah. But I'm just saying, in the U.S., no, there are some circles that don't make any distinction. They're just like, socialism is a step toward communism. So
true.
I agree with you. We should learn from from nature that we know, but also from the past. And there are really wrong belief about because always the winner are writing the history. And I agree. Yugoslavia can be instructive, while I think a Soviet country, because it was called communist or socialist, but it was so top down. So, and I think it's a bit what they want to do now with the Great Reset. So all what is totalitarian, we know it's wrong. But then in Spain in 1934, there were this anarchist experiment that has been totally destroyed by I don't remember his name now, but then he even called Hitler to help to destroy them, because each time there is something good, then the devil come to destroy. That's, I agree with you that, Gorazd, we should be a bit quiet. And but I know some people in inspiral ecosystems, so it could be interesting to talk about this past, because I made the same, not as you did, but I did some research about how we were organized in France in the Middle Age, before this super revolution of the Lumière Enlightenment. That really, I think we have been totally fooled by this. And it was quite interesting, because it was not at all what I've learned at school because at school middle age was really a bad period where
Correct.
the law was so bad and they were slave but actually not at all.
Yeah, it was better.
It
was better.
It was better than now. I'm
Yeah,
sure there
yeah,
were some
yeah,
places with
yeah.
not good. It's never the paradise.
If
But
nothing
people
else,
were-
everybody had eco food.
Yes, there were food, there were responsibilities, and then the Lord have duties and not only rights. So it was very interesting. And so maybe, yes, to have a broadcast where we can learn
Explain
from the
this.
history
Yeah.
and even learn from other cultures that still are organizing in another way. Because instead to think we will reinvent alone the wheel without knowing by the experiment of the other. But,
Yep,
we are not coming from nowhere.
correct. Okay, guys.
Super. Thank you, Gorazd. And thank you, Stephanie, to
See you
make
around.
this happen.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Yeah, lots to think about.
If you have any questions or want to know more, just contact me. No problem. Okay,
Thank
I
you.
will leave now. I have to go myself because I have to do something. Enjoy.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks very much. See you next session on the next hour. I'm going to run home and set up there. Bye, everybody.
Bye.